Tex, do you want to open it up?
Sure. Welcome everyone to the MAGFest in VR, making of the VR MAGLord, which is the space we created a little over a year ago to bring the Gaylord into the virtual world for all of us who could not be there. You can go to the next slide. I'll introduce ourselves. I am Justin, known in-game as Texelsaur and just around in general. And I did a lot of the sort of Unity development and scripting, a little bit of the 3D modeling. I'll let Charles and Greg introduce themselves.
Okay. I'm Charles Lore. I did a lot of the shaders and other effects, and yeah, that was, I don't know, I'm just mostly an effects guy right now.
Hey, I am Greg Lord, GP Lord in game, and yeah, this started for me as a modeling project when I was missing MAGFest last year, just kind of trying to model the Gaylord, and then that turned into what is now VRChat world building and a lot of our sort of like creative side of things, where these two shame me with their technical prowess every day, all day. So yeah.
Also, I am totally a Scyther today because I was a Scyther in VR and not because there's a Pokemon photo shoot right after.
Okay, go for it, Greg.
Yeah, so this is just kind of a overview video here of what we have put together. This is not sort of especially the content as much as just sort of getting a glance at it if anybody has not seen it. So the idea here is that basically this is a similar but sort of VR specific version of the Gaylord that we know and love here, kind of done in VR fashion. Familiar sights and sounds, and then also some sort of theme pieces that are familiar. So it makes me especially happy that YouTube chose the DeVito Shrine there as the thumbnail for that video. Yeah, that and other things like it are kind of the idea there, but just making it feel like a familiar space for specifically the MAGFest audience. It's a big labor of love there, and hopefully something that gives people a sort of feeling of MAGFest, especially last year and this year, given circumstances.
All right, so what is the VR MAGLord? This is a project that we put together on VRChat, which is probably the biggest or one of the biggest VR platforms available right now. I think a bunch of you already indicated that you play VRChat, which is absolutely awesome. I'd love to meet some of you at some point. And of course, VRChat is available on PC, desktop, in addition to VR, so it's pretty accessible. And VRChat is composed of many, many thousands of worlds just created by people like us or you to share with everyone. And so with MAGFest unfortunately not being a thing, we embarked on a project to bring the space back into VRChat so we could sort of have our convention together. And the vision of that project has definitely evolved quite a bit along the way, starting with trying to recreate a very accurate representation to starting to stylize it in sort of our own ideal image of what a MAG event could be, completely unchained. The project was actually spearheaded by Leon Rash, aka Lego Myth, who I think noticed that several other events had been starting to do this thing as well, with everybody being canceled, and started gauging interest if there was anyone who wanted to volunteer to do this for MAGFest. And several of us sort of got involved early on that process. And the three of us ended up sort of being the lead developers for that space. And you can find us on our Discord here if you're interested in how development is progressing or want to contribute in any way.
Okay, Greg, take it away.
All right. So, yeah, I think we started to say basically the origin of all of this was basically having a year without MAGFest and sort of needing to deal with what that was going to mean. So I guess next slide. This was a funny thing to look back on here preparing slides. MAGFest was canceled September 8th, and I was going back through my hard drive and realized that the little folder that contains basically every scrap of this project was created like a few hours later, which I have described to people in the past as being like just a weird grieving process. So obviously, you know, the year has been even weirder. I'm not even there this year. But the idea of this sort of project was, this was just me in isolation wanting to just be creating some kind of a 3D space that at the time I was imagining was going to be maybe like a little like quick Unity web game or something. And the idea was just to start modeling the MAGlord. So you hopefully all know the MAGlord. I think you're all there. So, all right, next slide. All right, so it turns out to start modeling this place, I mean, the thing that occurred to me was to just go and try and find floor plans online and start putting them in Blender and start trying to model over top of that. That was fun, and you can find maps like what I've got on the screen there pretty easily, but they're more to get people around a building than to try to be to scale. So it turns out that those are not great to work with. So the next slide here, this was me trying to take several of them and basically like between Photoshop and Blender, like chop them up into one big sort of master layout and then drop that in Blender. And the idea was, okay, there's your blueprint, like just start modeling. Not only are they individually inaccurate, but you start to line two of these up and you start to like realize that things are like 30 feet the wrong direction. And it's been validating over the last couple of years to hear that like other people have sort of tried to do things with these too and realized that like this is not going to get you accuracy. So that's okay. We just sort of, that became the project, was like working around those kind of limitations. This is just, we definitely don't all need to like watch all of this, but this is just a little bit of screen recording of like what that looks like. Just kind of trying to lay out like base geometry here and, you know, use the blueprint to get things started. And then from there, it's a lot of like pushing things around and getting people into a game session and being like, okay, yeah, this doesn't look right. And like, a big part of it was just trying to find photos, which, you know, you can go through all of your own photos and find a lot, but then you start turning into like watching people's YouTube, like walking through MAGFest videos and like trying to find that one camera angle that you couldn't find in your own photos. And like, this was weeks of this kind of thing. But yeah, so this is just early days, like a couple of the sort of hero pieces like the gazebo and all of that. The big thing, I think Justin already mentioned, but the telethon is really what got things started. We were all kind of chatting in the telethon chat. This was the fundraiser telethon a couple of days later. I was now at this point 4 days into modeling this thing, totally in isolation, for no one, just for fun, hopefully to be a game. And then a lot of chatter on that telethon chat turned into like, hey, we should model this in VRChat. And me, genuine quote, what's VRChat? So yeah, Lego Myth started a Discord that night. I got into that and just started kind of talking and made a decision that would end up costing me a lot of sleep for the next couple of years. But yeah, okay, I think this is what that looked like about by this time. This was a sort of intentionally low polygon version where the goal here was to make something that was the right sort of feel of the building, but like super low detail, because this is where I started working with Charles. This would become the 3D model at low enough detail that it could be run on the chainsaw swag for this year. So Charles has more to show on that in the next one.
Oh, there we go. So if you guys pull up your swatches, you can actually just play inside of this area, which is actually 3D rendered on the swatch. The funny part about it was, I was like, hey, do you have a really low poly version? And Greg is like, yeah, because that's all I really got to. And I'm like, okay, can you make it lower poly? And sure enough, he did. And I was like, can you make it line segments instead of triangles? Because lines are a lot easier to render. And he's like, oh yeah, gotcha, fam. So the version you have on the swatch is actually really close to the old version on the like what was to become the VRChat world.
Yeah. And you know, performance limits where you want things to sort of be optimized, like that ended up working out nicely anyway for that. Like low poly helped basically.
Okay, so I guess to talk a little bit about our process. I think Greg already mentioned this in answering an earlier question. We did all of our modeling for this project in Blender as opposed to Unity or another 3D package. Since it's open source, it's accessible to everyone, and most importantly, it's what Greg used, so that just makes it easy for everyone. But Blender is certainly used pretty pervasively in VRChat world development. And then, of course, we have no say in this part. All VRChat development is done on Unity. It is a Unity-based game, and they provide us an SDK that we can use to take what is basically a pretty vanilla Unity project and just put some extra little VRC bits into it and publish it as a world that everybody can explore and play in. I would say that VRChat is really just a kind of a UI on top of Unity. So I think I mentioned before a little bit about VRChat. It's a free VR platform. You can go get it on Steam, and it doesn't require VR. You can play it in desktop mode, which is how I started for the first 6 or so months. But you have to have Windows. Sorry, Mac users. And it's a really great creative platform. And obviously, we're talking about our version of the MAGLord that we created there, but there's all kinds of crazy, awesome stuff that absolutely mind-blowing people have created, both in terms of worlds to explore and avatars, which is a huge outlet of expression on that platform. And I don't know if I can validate that last statement, but it is a pretty huge VR community compared to any of the other platforms that I know of.
I can, at least for PC, and I can say that VRChat is, at least on PC, by far the largest VR platform, and based on other numbers, I believe it is across all platforms.
So the project was originally intended to be part of Virtual MAGFest, which did not happen last year. But we had this finished space, and there was some interest in trying to utilize it to support some other events. Before I get into that, we have a little recreation here of a battle I had with the Snorlax a few MAGFests ago. This was one of the moments that being able to recreate that scene like this is just kind of it really put some of this project into perspective. Like we're actually creating something that has a little bit of that feel of MAGFest. This is getting pretty real. Next slide. So the first event that we ended up doing after what would have been Virtual MAGFest was a little DJ party for KatsuCon. We didn't do a full partnership with KatsuCon or anything, but we decorated the space in some more anime theme and got their DJ dance community involved and put on a 2-night set in a sort of companion world called Poe's Nightclub. And that was sort of the big opening introduction of the MAGLord to the VRChat community. The next event that we worked on is an event called VGM Together, which was organized by some longtime MAG attendees, guests, very integrated into the MAG community, who recognized that we still needed an outlet for all this MAG energy, a place for video game music, and the MAGLord was kind of the perfect place to capture that feeling that we were all familiar with. And so we utilized the space as part of that event and sort of reworked the theme to go along with that. And then the next event we ran after that was put together by one of MAGFest's own divisions, the indie games, indie arcade, Makerspace was part of it. So we all kind of came together and did our own event because we were going to run our own stream for Virtual MAGFest, and a lot of that groundwork had been done. So we again sort of rethemed the space and put together an entire expo hall for an indie game showcase, which again looked really awesome to walk through and had that feeling of a really sort of high-end expo that we couldn't even probably recreate easily here in the Gaylord.
I think we have examples of that later too. But yeah, one of the things that sort of started to emerge was basically just like creating a few big pieces that would sort of be the recognizable like themes for each of our events. So got the gazebo there as like, I think what is the main sort of visual image that we had associated with a lot of the projects. So yeah, that next one, this was fun to dig up. This was just literally like a pencil sketch of like, okay, like if we wanted to make this but not have it be an exact replica and like wanted it to be MAGFest, like what should we do? And like the idea of this sort of almost joke of like, what if the entire lower atrium was just a giant king donut, like actually immediately happened and became like kind of the center point of like all of the themes that we've done since. So that is, I think it's like 80 feet across in real life. I forget what the real life measurements are, but it's just the whole lower atrium is king donut. So yeah, that turned into other things for other events here. So I think the next couple we have Katsu Party. It was like, okay, well now we can go, and since it's an anime convention, we can kind of find like Japanese inspired pieces, so like turning the sort of stone lantern aesthetic into the gazebo there. VGM Together being so much about video game music first and foremost, I think I turned the gazebo into a giant black mage hat for Final Fantasy reference there. The Maker's Play had a sort of like a synthwave, vaporwave, I think I maybe misinterpreted the theme there, aesthetic, along with duct tape. So it's literally a duct taped gazebo that when you would click a button would turn the entire thing into this like iconic sort of synthwave scene here and start playing like music and have a sort of low poly like wireframe aesthetic there. That was a fun one. But yeah. So next, I think we have, the fountain sort of done up the same way with like torii gates and stone lanterns. VGM Together had a giant sort of logo, and then a wall that was the sort of Ocarina of Time music thing there. We even had a prototype of that being interactive that didn't really come together, but yeah, that's one of those rainy day future projects. And then just kind of a top-down view of the whole place, including like this sky bridge that we put in to sort of give people a place to play and look down over everything. For VGM Together, that turned into a giant piano that's in our current version right now. If you check it out, you can run around on that, and every key that you step on plays a note.
I think this is blank. Is it blank?
Yeah.
Oh.
We're on top of these slides. Okay, carpets. This one was funny for me. I don't know where this came from, but like there was this magical moment where as I was taking screenshots of model pieces, I kind of made up this like mock like Gaylord style carpet that was done in a MAGFest sort of way. So it's like, the little square wave logo, the controller, as part of this carpet, and I started sending that to people, and like immediately everybody like had this big reaction, and they were like, oh my god, those are the Gaylord carpets, because they're iconic visually. And like I don't know where that came from, and I was not expecting it, but it became people's like favorite parts, and like it really was a thing that like for the next year, like people would be like, oh, you're that carpet guy. And I was like, I am? Like, okay. So I'm carpet guy now, and the joke down below is that like we would do weeks of development on stuff, and like poor Justin would be like doing all of this like deep like video player, audio player thing. It's the only reason a space is usable. But then we'd bring people in to show them, and everybody would be like, oh, look at the carpets. So like, yeah, not exactly fair, but I guess it does help to know that that's like important to people. So Mag had a couple of carpets after the Gaylord with the MAGFest logo. The staff hallway there, it was important to make like a little shout out to all the staff t-shirts there. It's just a little like love letter to everybody. So that's various staff shirt designs over the years turned into a carpet. MAGFest has sort of little logos from various speedrunning sort of references. The Sun Cats got their own version of the concert hall. So the 2019 MAGFest theme, sort of like Star Fox aesthetic. And Katsu Party, we actually, our friend Melanie ended up doing a series of carpets for us while we were busy trying to scrape together all of the model stuff. So just sort of various elements of like Japanese kind of references there.
One of the funny stories I have about this one, though, is it was about this time that VRChat created Udon, which is like the in-game scripting language, and the one of the lead developers for VRChat was in our world, and he looked at the carpet and was staring at it, and he's like, "Oh, haha, very funny, a reference to Udon." We're like, no, that's not what it is.
I genuinely did not know that till this moment. That is awesome. VGM Together, same deal, just kind of making some sort of things out of that logo, a big sort of grid of instruments and controllers and video game references. And Indie Maker Syndicate, that one was fun. The sort of synthwave vibe, the various little tools of the trade, all of that. All of these, and then this year, one more carpet for this go around here for us. The Doom theme for 2022 had all of these awesome sort of runes. So, deciding to make a Doom rune carpet was a lot of fun there. So yeah, I don't know, carpets. Other little props, King Donut is everywhere in our space. He's sort of the easiest mascot of MAGFest to work with. So he got his own line of energy drinks for the bar downstairs. And that derpy, like Link getting the sword thing turned into King Donut with a can. So we've got our flavors, Ocarina of Lime and Majora's Mango and Skyward Strawberry. Those are all downstairs in a bar that does not really exist in the real world, but it's I think it's coming up ahead, so I'll talk about that then. Along with the Lon Milk. And then using the theme spaces here, VGM Together was premiering a YouTube music event there. It was a big collaborative video called Line Them Up based on Paper Mario, so we decided to sort of take what was that main concert hall pre-function area and turn that whole thing into a sort of Paper Mario theme there to kind of give that a shout out.
In addition to doing a lot of the work ourselves, we tried to get the community involved with helping us to create assets and lend their own creative talent. One of the areas that this shows up the most is in some of the custom arcade cabinets that we have. I don't think they're in the MAGLord itself, but they are in Poe's Nightclub. Most of these were contributed by Melanie. Thank you very much for the beautiful artwork.
It was nice to see sort of one pipeline become what could be then many arcade cabinets, yeah.
We also had some other contributions. Greg had put together an avatar originally for King Donut, which was then worked on some more later by Tresh, and then we had another contribution for this wonderful amalgamation of the horrible goose and a bagpipe, and I absolutely love it. I don't think we quite got that turned into an avatar, but you can definitely find it around in a couple places in VRChat.
Yeah, the shader was actually done as part of a live stream where I just kept asking people, like, what's the most revolting way to do this? Like, it's a goose. I hate geese. Like...
King Donut also has a new addition not to be missed. We added a space to our set of worlds this year called the Mag Gallery, which I'll show more later. But at the end of the Mag Galleries, the prize is an even more cursed version of King Donut this year. And Tresh from the Mag community here has added Vizemes, which is to say that when you talk, well, I won't spoil it too much, but he's animated and it's great, is what I'll say. All right, so a big part of the last year for the three of us specifically has been a sort of spin-off project that is now kind of part of the whole thing. We had a lot of requests last year, like everybody asking us, like, oh, are you going to model Poe's Nightclub? And we're like, we don't really know it. Like, it seemed like it was important to a lot of people. None of the three of us had ever been there. So we were like trying to find photo references of it, and like there aren't a lot of great photos of Poe's. I don't know why. So we were trying to like come up with like, okay, how are we going to do this? And then I think the idea just became like, you know what, like we don't know it that well, so let's just do what we're doing and like ultra theme this place. So the joke became like, we've got Poe the ghost from Zelda. All of us are Zelda fans. I've got a cat named Poe, and Poe is, you know, just the right sort of symbol for me to make a nightclub out of. So Poe and Poe kind of became the Poe's nightclub. So the nightclub belonging to my cat Poe. Is the joke there. And it turns out people like cats, so you kind of accidentally strike gold when you make a nightclub centered around cats. That was almost just sort of, I think, a lucky kind of accident more than anything. There are real-world elements. I think I almost sort of felt obligated to start by trying to make it the real space because people had asked us for it, and that really didn't go very far because we don't know it, and I feel like you know, it's almost the joke of this world that those are the spots nobody really uses. What did end up being the sort of parts that work about it, I think, just trying to lift elements from the Zelda reference there, the forest temple from Ocarina of Time, the idea of these sort of like colored lanterns from the Poe sisters in this place became, we literally have the lanterns there. There was an elevator that sort of goes down to the boss room that we've turned into this sort of elevated like dance platform. Like lifting things that people know and recognize and sort of making those the centerpieces of that is the thing that works about the space. There's this sort of iconic entrance, the sort of temple facade that's stuck in the corner of the place to sort of give it some bearing. There is, this is my favorite part, the twisted hallway from the Forest Temple is just one of those iconic game moments. So the entrance to this place when you first arrive, you go through what's this very sort of, you know, dramatic entrance to the space where the hallway sort of twists as you go down. Well, this one's yours.
Yep. So when I first was like talking to people about the virtual MAGLord, I was like, well, I don't really do Unity. I don't really know much about a lot of aspects of game dev, but I do know shaders, but that I don't know how that would help you. And then they said, oh, don't worry, you can use shaders in VRChat. I'm like, yeah, right, sure. And then sure enough, no, I was wrong. Actually, you can, and they're basically unrestricted. So one of the major contributions I started with was making like the little pose flames around the dance floor, which have like a halftone pattern. And then from there, I was like, well, why not just go for the gold and make a dance floor that like you interact with? So like as you wave your hands around, it actually causes like waves to go out from where you are on the dance floor. Additionally, I did things like the animations for the little fairies. All of that's actually done inside of the graphics card instead of on the CPU. So a lot of these effects are basically free. And Texelsor did the moon, which actually comes at you from the air.
This is one of the little gags here. I like to run around as a Link avatar, so part of the joke was like, okay, well, what if we made the little clay pots there into something that you could just pick up and smash? A lot of people asked for that before it was a thing, and we had sort of already planned to do it, so it became one of those little side projects. You can just kind of live the dream of being Link and running around smashing a bunch of pots and little rupee pickups in there just for fun. That video is me getting insanely lucky and getting 3 for 3, so I have to celebrate that. Yeah.
So one of the things that we did originally for it was for the swatches, there's this thing called color chord, which is when you say a note or whatever, like hear a note, it selects the same color and presents it. And so at some point it turned out, sure enough, you can just pipe audio that's coming out of the speakers in VRChat to a system on the GPU to do the same exact code. So when people are playing music inside of Poe's Nightclub, all of the, it's a video. All of the lanterns around the room all do the same colors, and also we added like VU meters and other visual effects which are based on the audio. I guess it's, so one of the other interesting parts about that was at the same time, there was another system called AudioLink being developed by Lealu in VRChat, which allows audio to be piped to avatars for avatar effects. So some of the things we added were like this VU meter, which would make it possible for DJs to kind of check their levels while they're playing in order to make sure that the players in the game hear the things at the right levels that they should without needing somebody else to do a sound check. Oh, and so speaking of color chord, in Pose, we use something called real-time GI, and so the lighting in Pose, which is done based on the music, it actually can light the scene with like indirect bounces and all, and avatars. So like in this case, Texelsaur is standing in front of some of the lights, which are at the bar area in Pose. Oh, and one of the other fun things about like all of this color chord and audio link and all that mix is that it's something that was actually able to work its way back into systems which are used elsewhere in VRChat. So all the development that we did for this map ended up contributing back to audio link, which is something that's used in many VRChat worlds right now. Yeah, here's like a picture from Loner. I guess I should have done this as a video, but all of the avatars have like audio reactive stuff going on them, and a lot of that code has now been pulled from Pose Nightclub and is going everywhere.
So Pose Nightclub ended up being a great sandbox for all kinds of like scripting and tech development. It turns out that if you're gonna do a club in VR, there's a lot of moving pieces involved. We had to do a lot of work with like the video players early on to be able to support streaming multiple DJs, especially because we didn't have, I would say, the correct back-end infrastructure to run that. And we ended up sort of building up multiple pieces to support all this. And next slide. And much like how some of that stuff evolved, like color chord, into audio link, we've built on some of this tech to help other events. Like, for example, I've worked with the very large virtual convention Virality, and we've built them up in an entire like broadcast system within VR, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, and just some sort of shots here of all of this kind of in action, just people actually in the space. This is just kind of our love letter to the space. You can also see a Texelsaur original on my video here, if you can switch to that. This is like, I don't know if, yeah, you can tell we love this space. This is an actual Pose lantern here. I had to give this a shout out. This is a Justin creation. All of that is to say this stuff has become quite important to us. Sorry to jump away from the slideshow there, but yeah, I'll go back. Like actually just having people in there sort of enjoying this stuff and what ends up happening with the space is just such a big deal, and sort of it becomes a very iterative process of like each sort of step kind of informing the next step, and each event sort of building on the tech a little bit and then sort of having ideas for what to do the next time around. All right, let me catch myself up here. So one of the things that we have really been trying to do throughout all of this is to think about like how people are going to use these spaces and to design things that are going to sort of work for that. All right, yeah, next slide. An example of this would be like a functional space like the panels ballroom in the MAGLord. You know, the Cherry Blossom Ballroom is the biggest sort of, it's the panels one location, and it's sort of one of the iconic panels locations if you're thinking about panels. So as we have Twitch streams coming into a VRChat world, like thinking about where to put them or where people will expect to go for that content. But you also have basically a gigantic empty room and, you know, not enough budget to fill it with like hundreds of seats or to expect that there are going to be hundreds of people in a single VRChat instance to fill them. So sort of taking a space like that and kind of trying to keep the vibe of it, but also make it VRChat compatible, which might mean things as simple as just fewer larger chairs, more spaciously spread out, but giant screens so that you can still sit in them and watch a panel. So VGM Together was the first event that used these, and we actually had all of the panels content piped into that room, and people actually used it. It was great. The next slide, they even sort of used it less conventionally, which is to say we had a yoga panel in VR, and it's fun to watch people in full body VR tracking do yoga. It goes well sometimes, and then sometimes poor Fox gets eaten by the floor.
I will note that on the previous slide, I had full body tracking on the left, and that is me actually trying to do the down dog. And also, that is about as good as I can get my down dog.
Yeah. I do not have full body tracking, so mine looks easy accidentally there, just me lifting my arms. But yeah, I think our friend here got eaten by the floor on the next slide, and it was pretty iconic. Yeah. Next things would be thinking about spaces. I think I said earlier, you can't really do some of the same things, but the Belvedere in the MAGlord is a performance space, and people sort of associate it with music. It's also a hangout space. The whole lobby functionally isn't really a thing people are going to use in the VR space, so you don't really need it. So you can kind of eat the space and turn that into a nice little joke at the same time. This is the Belmont. The video here is from an older version, but so the Belvedere becomes the Belmont, and you get a cheap game pun out of it, and you get to also turn that into a spot where people can sort of have a chill out spot that's also a concert space.
I remember this MAGFest when they were like, oh, and the Belvedere. I'm like, what are you talking about? And they're like describing like, oh, the Belmont, and it's like, grief.
The next one is this one is actually a separate world. If you go to the concert hall, for a lot of reasons, is its own sort of space. It gives you a lot more control over the lighting and the audio, and it's got a big video player that we can pipe in. So the goal was to give people a spot to watch concerts. And we themed ours after the 2019 Suncats thing. I think I blew past the slide there, but turning it into a like sci-fi hangar almost for the M wing for MAGFest's 2019 theme there. So instead of a sci-fi shuttle docking bay, it became the rocking bay. And the goal is just to actually let the content light the space. So you see all those lights there in that video. It's kind of funny, like you basically get it for free by just reading the pixel values off of the screen. Like you're getting the color that looks, and it ends up looking like a coordinated light show just because it's matching what is happening on the screen. But that was actually the space that I think made us realize what a big deal real-time GI could be in terms of like using that in pose. Like letting a video light the space was a big deal. Okay, so next, the idea of like what to do with panels rooms. There is a real panels room, and you can get up there and actually talk on a microphone and have it be like the soapbox, including throwable bananas. But also this idea of like using one of the other ones, like you might really only need one of those for the amount of people that are going to be in a VRChat instance. So using some of the others to be like a portal space to other worlds, things like that. And this is a big one for me, at least. Bugs are fun. We've kind of liked trying to steer into the bugs a little bit. We had a room that just did not light, and it's this weird pitch black, like bright purple, just mess. And it became the nightmare room, and we like the nightmare room, and we leave it there because it's one of our favorite parts. And people can get in here, and it's sort of a fun Easter egg prize if you manage to get in there. You even get like a broken version of the banana.
Let's see. So we kind of already touched on all of the virtual events that we've done in the space over the past year. The Katsu Party, VGM Together, the Indie Maker Syndicate. And for each of these spaces, we ended up tailoring certain aspects to that event. So for VGM Together, we had all of these artists and panelists who were going to be part of the event, and we wanted to give them a little bit of space, like as if they had a table in the marketplace or a spot in Rock Island. And what we ended up doing is noticing that we have these humongous empty hallways in the convention center. Why don't we put them to use? And we created this sort of alley of artists and panelists to show them off and give them a link to their website, etc. And I think this was a great way to sort of fill out the space and make it feel like a convention rather than having huge empty hallways and adding more rooms.
Greg, are you still there, or is this my internet?
Yeah.
Oh, you're here.
I'm not
Okay.
sure.
All right, well, I don't know if the video is going to load, but I had also mentioned that for the Indie Maker Syndicate, which again was mainly composed of the of the MIVs, there we go, the MIVs department, the Indie Arcade, they had already lined up all of their indie devs to do virtual MAGFest, and we ended up taking all that and putting together an expo of all of their booths, and giving them full creative control to create their own booths with their own assets and have us put them in. And some of them, they used a generic template, but a lot of them actually gave us some really creative stuff, and it's really fun to walk through and see it all, watch the videos, and during the event itself had some of those developers in there to talk to us. We also put together some additional spaces just to get some more of that nostalgia feel, like the actual hotel guest room with some light retheming, like we got another nice mag carpet in there. But as it turns out, the Gaylord has since renovated all of that, so if you'd like to return to the old hotel rooms, you can go catch them in the MAGlord.
And I forgot the picture of the King Donut shower curtain. That's my fault.
Please
Well,
go
you-
look.
That's
Please go look for the King Donut shower curtain. It's the best thing in the project.
I'll claim that was on purpose to get people in there. So I mean, the big thing this year, and I will say I could not have even imagined how big of a thing, even as excited as I was, has been the VRChat portal, which is running now, and I am getting to experience it from the other side, which I'm almost glad about, because I think that this is turning out to just be such an important part of what's happening here. But
If you haven't seen it,
Next
please
slide.
go to Maryland registration. So it's over by LAN, just right over there.
And then I think, I'm out of order here on the slides. So one of the other things we've added this year, this is the Mag Gallery. This is basically a giant love letter to 20 years of MAGFest, and it is fitting to the theme E1M1, the first map of the original Doom, sort of restyled as almost a Gaylord aesthetic, and filled to the brim with just art exhibits, and especially all of the swagges across the years. Here we had Adam from Swagges and Charles here, who worked on a lot of these, just kind of informing all of the history and all of the photos and all of the models and everything, and turning that into a sort of exhibit space. We've also got the Hall of Themes with like all of the themes from each year, little shout outs to features like the DeVito Shrine, and the new King Donut avatar at the end for the prize for going through it. That's our little teaser there. That rolled us up now and linked in the lobby of the MAGlord. And then, I actually should be letting all of these guys speak about the portal, because I can say from my side, this has been awesome. I've been in there a lot this weekend, just sort of watching this from the virtual side, and I will say it's just people, this is where they are. I'm very, very glad for people to get the chance to roam around the MAGlord, but like, this has immediately become the most important part of what I think is happening this weekend, is just people there talking to people, whether they know them or not, on the other side of that, and it really feels like real interaction from the virtual side of that. So we've even got encounters here from Sonic and Knuckles. This is one of my favorite moments so far. We've got let's see, the next one. This was Tresh from MAGFest, being a both-sider there, being in VR while standing in the real world space, talking to people on both sides at once. It was pretty incredible.
So Greg, I just sent you a picture. If you don't mind adding it to the slide deck, like at the end of this little stint where I'm talking, that'd be awesome.
Sure. Got it. Will do.
So this is just a picture from the outside. What we actually had was there's a little jam pod across the way, which you can't really see clearly here. But so when the traffic was lighter, a lot of times you would actually have real DJs in real life playing and having like their audience inside of VR, which was crazy and very meta. The one thing, I don't know if it's clear, if you guys aren't familiar with what's going on here, we have a camera sitting on a counter and a projector, and the idea is in VRChat, there's this window, which is that camera view, and there's this window in the real world into VR, which is a camera inside of the virtual world. So this isn't really that complicated of a diagram. Basically, it's just using OBS and a real-life camera to use VRCDN. By the way, shout out to VRCDN. They are awesome for being a very low latency way of taking video and sending it to a ton of players in VRC. And then you have the VRChat running on the PC, and that just goes out to the screen and the microcube speaker. But this wouldn't be MAGFest if we didn't make things absurdly complicated. So we're talking to Rob Scullin about the Jumbotron, and he told us the way in which we would have to output to it. So it involved a much more sophisticated setup, including NDI outputs from the PC and having to use like a Bluetooth speaker and it like 2 computers to like knit it all together. But it did actually result in us being able to make this live on the Jumbotron. So you can see the people in VRChat at the window, and they can see the real world right here, and they can still wave back and forth to each other. And we're going to be setting that up again today sometime, but I don't know exactly when right now. I think around 5 is my guess. Oh wow, we're almost at the end of the presentation. So for me, at least, VRChat has been a huge thing because I work in VR now. So like I used to work as a subsea engineer working on electronics, and I put on a Vive for the first time 3 years ago, and I was like, five years ago now, and I was like, this is just what I want to do with my life. So I got it, started reverse engineering it, got noticed by some people at Valve, and got the opportunity to just completely switch my careers to that. I never appreciated VRChat and its impact in the space until like a year ago, and since then, it really is a way bigger game changer than I think anybody gives it credit for. Like, it takes VR from something that like a little game system to an entirely new way for people to relate to each other. So for me, I over the course of the last year, I just took a ton of videos and put them all together, and this project has been a huge aspect of that for me, being able to meet the people in the community, being able to grow with them, being able to learn. And if you guys are curious about it, I actually made like a 27-minute video, my year in VRChat, if you ever wanted to search that. But yeah, no, it's just been an amazing ride, and doing content creation in VRC is just amazing, being able to make something and then being able to get other people's eyes on it immediately, and then being able to release it and be able to have tens of thousands of people watching it or like participating in the experience just hours later.
And Charles, your slide is in there. You might need to exit and restart the presentation. That extra one there is, it should be the one before where you just were. There you go.
Oh. Yeah, so just so you guys see, this is the other side of the portal. It's nothing magical. It's just a nice little projector in the corner projecting on a screen with the PC. Okay, yeah. Go.
I start with some thanks here on my side. I just wanted to say a lot of what Charles just said is absolutely true for me too. This has just been a weirdly more fulfilling project than I could have ever expected, and I think that the goal for me was to start with something that would be scratching the sort of itch of like, I'm going to miss MAGFest this year. Can I at least make a little virtual space? Like I do 3D modeling. Maybe if I put some model somewhere, 3 people will download it and they'll have, a little misty-eyed moment walking around something that looks vaguely like the MAGLord next year. I did not expect a lot of what Charles was talking about just how many people you can put something in front of. I've done game jams and indie game stuff for years, and you're lucky if 10 people play them, and that's awesome, and I really still love that. But this has been a big much bigger thing in terms of like getting it to a community. So I don't know, I've just been very grateful for that. A lot of people made this happen, and especially the MAGFest staff themselves. I think we've gotten a ton of support and a ton of excitement and eyes on it, advice on it, all of that from all of them. The other events we worked with, VGM Together was a validating creative moment. The two co-directors of that event, Doug and Nudge, had been really like opening a very big door for us to sort of have creative input on all of that. And Justin and I are both department heads for that event, and I think that gave us a lot of room to sort of grow and be grateful for that. Indie Maker Syndicate was a chance to grow all of the tech, to grow the community, to go back to MAGFest in another way through that lens, which was awesome. And then just, all of the people that have supported us there. Our Discord has been a very useful resource in a lot of ways, a lot of good people, some collaborative work there. Well, I'll let you talk to the shader folks here.
Yeah, I guess for me, the biggest thing was being able to hop in, and I literally had never used Unity in my life before this, and being able to have people who were willing to both teach me like the inner depths of a craft, and also the complete noob, because I've never even done any of this before, has just been wild. And so it was just almost everybody at the VRC Shader Discord had been hugely helpful. The other one was Merlin. So Merlin VR he's like just a huge community developer in VRChat, and he was willing to actually straight up help us out directly when we were stuck up a tree. And it was just awesome to be able to have somebody who's willing to just screen share into a project and get out the big guns and help us solve a problem that we just don't know how to solve. And then the last one is Draken, who is right here, right now, for actually getting us started in a lot of ways, and yeah, a lot of the help out throughout the way. He's right now fixing the portal, which actually, if you do, then I might be able to log into VRChat right here on the panel and be a both-siders. I guess it's not really a both-siders because we're not at the portal. Okay. Does Tex or GP-Lord, do you have anything?
Well, I definitely want to, again, thank Greg and Charles for sticking with me all the way on this project and continuing to work on some pretty incredible things. Greg, and of course, for helping get us introduced to world development and showing us some aspects of VRChat that we were still new to. And I would like to thank the broader Ferality team for also working with me or getting me involved in some other projects. Tailbase the same way, which really helped me develop a niche in tech that we have also fed back into this project.
Greg, it's going to be a little bit weird because the timing on this was really unfortunate that I brought up VRC right when you would go, but hopefully it won't be too loud, so go.
I think I got to say my thanks there, but yeah, I just definitely wanted to shout out these two people before you here as being amazing minds, amazing collaborators, and even to the point of still finding a way for me to be there today to talk with everybody. I've been excited about this for a very long time, so huge thanks to both of you for all of this. This has been genuinely my favorite, biggest, most fulfilling project I think I've ever been part of. So yeah, this is good times, and I hope more people might be interested. We really wanted to sort of just get this in front of people and make it seem a little more sort of like approachable as a thing that just people do. But yeah, so thank you very much. We did want to leave some time for questions. I don't know how much we have left. I guess it's only a few minutes, but yeah, please, if anybody wants to talk.
Yeah, out there in the back in the far left.
How can one join these Discord servers that were mentioned a few slides ago?
The question is, how can one join the Discord servers that we're mentioning? It is in the presentation.
It should be on the wall of thanks in the world itself too.
Yeah, it's in the slides there. Like that you're in VRC right now. Yeah, there's a wall of thanks, which I will say right now, that is woefully out of date. It's one of those things that we just don't update often enough, and I feel very bad for that. But certainly we are very grateful to all of those people, and there are many more that should be there right now. That's the Discord link. I will say it's a development Discord, so I think we've had a lot of people that sort of want to show up and talk, and I feel like we're very bad at just kind of socializing or doing like events and things like another Discord might. But it is our active workspace, so I feel like that's many nights we'll find us all kind of sitting in our staff voice channel, just kind of working on things and screen sharing. So that's probably the way to think of what that Discord is.
Okay, next person that walks by, I'm going to say hi. Let's see if this works. Oh, looks like Draken just got it up and running. Although,
Nice.
Wow, it's got some lag. Oh, wait, no, there we go. Wait, oh, I'm in the wrong instance.
I'm trying to think of how many different ways removed from reality the moment that I am sitting here experiencing is. Like,
I guess if somebody came in.
this is an even more virtual presentation.
Okay, we're gonna make this happen.
Were there other questions while you're doing that?
Yeah, right there in the, go.
So, is there any plans on doing this for Kotlin as well, or is it strictly MAGFest?
Oh, you're good.
The question is, are there any plans on doing this for Katsu, or is it strictly MAGFest? GP Lord or Tex, can you take it?
By that I mean like the two-way.
By that he means the two-way interaction.
None of us are involved with KatsuCon, so I'll say no, but if KatsuCon wanted to reach out to us and try and spearhead that effort, I think we would be happy to try and give them as much knowledge and assistance there that we could without being directly responsible for it.
Hey, say hi.
Hello. What's up? Hey, pal.
Hello, many ways removed from reality metaverse.
I hurt my throat.
This is some Black Mirror
I
shit.
think I'm at like a sixth order of virtually looking at this portal.
Black Mirror. That's a new one.
If you die in game, you die in real life.
I love that.
You see somebody in the bag and just.
Any other questions? Go. I saw the one in the back over there first, and then you. Yep, you. Yeah.
IRL leg. I'm already dead.
It depends on the world. For the MAGFest world, we never actually did anything like that. It was for it was IMS and VGM together. I think you did the booths. Which do you mean like? Just ask the question. Okay. I mean, we're up for doing more booths if it makes sense, or if anybody wants to contribute and coordinate with people and make this
You
thing.
guys seen the new Spider-Man movie?
The question is how
Is
do you
that about
apply-
the VGM Together booths? I'm not hearing quite well.
Like look sideways.
Can you elaborate on the question more? I'm sorry. Okay.
We don't, for MAGFest in particular, we haven't come up with any plan for booths. It's possible, if this happens again, that we may work with more departments for that, but there's no defined process for that currently.
One thing I'll say about that, I feel like we are still very much at like the experimenting phase with everything, where like just getting the model pulled together and getting it to not look like, as much of a mess as it has over the last year has been such a big part of these first ramp-up years, that I feel like the idea of doing like the kinds of things that we can do more of, like that kind of participation in a space, or like actually putting content in a useful way to sort of a real world event or whatever. Like, I feel like we're just getting to the point where that stuff will be more of what we have time and energy for, and I would really love to push that stuff a lot further. I feel like that, that won't just be us trying to come up with stuff as much as hopefully having conversations that sort of reveal what the use is. For me, this portal this year has been the big thing, and I feel like there are a lot more big things like that are sort of like waiting to be discovered here in terms of what adds value to events in this kind of space.
Then, yes, you, sorry, in the black.
Oh, I just want to say that this is like really impressive. Like the little VR stuff I've gotten to do, this stuff that is like I'm like really impressed. I was one of you mentioned that you're working for Valve now because of this.
It's not because of this. It was other stuff I had done.
Okay, well, I was just wondering because I mean, Valve is such a big company for this. I was just like, was it so? Building your portfolio from working on this actually helped
It significantly helped my position at Valve. Like, I was able to get into Valve without this, but having gone through the experience with so many others and being able to chat with people about VR in VR and where it's going and the sort of thought processes behind that has been instrumental in my career.
Oh yeah, that's really cool. Thank you.
Should we go to like Pose Nightclub? Do you guys want to see that? Where's the portal to Pose?
I don't think
not-
we ended
it's
up
not in
including
here right
one
now.
just because it's sort of a little bit of a side space. There is one at the end of the gallery, but yeah, I would just kind of hop over.
My laptop has been super jank for a while, so it just crashed.
I think our computers hate us at the end of all of this.
Anything else? Oh, back there in the brown shirt. Or noise pollution?
Yeah, like, every time I go to VRChat, it seems like every time you're like in the area, it seems like whenever people are talking,
So the question is, how do we deal with noise pollution? Well, as of last night, for that one bit where there was the error, we didn't. But normally, Tex, can you talk about how you do the audio zone stuff?
We have a system set up so that audio coming back to the real world here is limited only to a small area around the portal where everyone is standing. That said, just about everybody in the instance is standing right there, and all their voices are sort of amplified at full volume. So I'm not sure that we are necessarily doing anything for noise pollution. Maybe we're making it worse in some ways. But it still seems to be okay.
You're seeing the winter themed version of Pose Nightclub here. That's been a fun part of these worlds, is being able to go and do sort of like style passes over them to keep them seasonal or to celebrate events or whatever.
Oh yeah, this is the floor I mentioned. Yeah, it has been a lot of fun to just continue to iterate on these spaces, and then people will come and see like what's new and what's changed and everything else.
Mm-hmm. DIY snowman corner.
Okay, I think that's it.
Thank you all for attending our overview of the MAGLord project. We hope that we get to see some of you in game.
Thank you all very much for being here, and yeah, thank you both for including me virtually here today. I really appreciate it.